Welcome back to Power in the Pause. I'm your host, Chelsea, and this is the space where we slow down, breathe for a second, and remember that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is pause. In the last episode, we talked about what happens when your life doesn't look the way that you thought it would, when you're not who you plan to be. And today, we're going deeper because once you start letting go of that version, sis, the real question becomes who are you without it? Okay, this is where most of us rush. You feel uncomfortable not knowing who you are, so we impulsively try to fix it. That looks like maybe defining ourselves quickly, picking a new direction, and quote unquote getting back on track. But so often, it doesn't feel like panic. It just feels like we're a little off. Things don't feel as fulfilling. Maybe we're going through the motions. We're doing what we're supposed to do, but it's not really landing. And we can't exactly fully explain why. So we try to think our way out of it, right? But that urgency, that impulsiveness, it pulls us right back into the same pattern, trying to become someone instead of actually getting to know ourselves. Like, what do we want? So, let me shift this for you. You might not be calling yourself lost, but if you're being honest, more than likely, you feel disconnected. Disconnected from what you actually want, what you actually feel, and who you actually are right now. And that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. What it does mean is that you're no longer defined, but what you used to be attached to. And that space in between feels uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. There's no clear label, no identity to grab onto, no plan to follow. So our mind is trying to rush us out of it. You don't need to rush to become someone new. You need to give yourself permission to not know long enough to actually be honest with yourself. And that space you're in, sis, it's not a setback, it's a reset, but not in the way that we typically make it sound. Because this isn't about reinventing yourself overnight. This is about rebuilding your relationship with yourself without pressure, without performance, without forcing clarity. Because when you skip this part, you end up creating another version of yourself that still doesn't feel right. Instead of asking, who am I now? Let's take a moment and ask ourselves, what feels true for me right now? What doesn't feel aligned anymore? And where am I forcing something that just doesn't fit? Then pause and notice, where am I going through the motions because I don't know what else to do? Where am I falling into default? When you can answer that question, that awareness, that's where reconnection starts. Sis, you're allowed to change, period. That's it. You're allowed to outgrow versions of yourself. You're allowed to not have it all figured out yet. And you're allowed to take your time getting to know who you are and who you're becoming. Give yourself that permission instead of rushing to define it just to feel stable again. Okay, sis, before we close, take this moment with me. Pause. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Again, deep breath in, fill up those lungs, pause, hold, exhale. Now, gently ask yourself, where in my life do I feel disconnected? Even the parts where everything looks fine on the outside. And then reflect. what feels true for me now, even if I don't fully understand it yet. There's no pressure to fix it. I'm inviting you just to notice and breathe. Sis, thank you so much for being here with me today. And if this episode had resonated with you, share it with another woman who feels like she's in between versions of herself right now. And if you want more conversations like this about healing, growth, and stepping into the woman that you're becoming, come join me over on Instagram at She is Society Official. And if you're in this space right now, stay with me because in the next episode, we're talking about what it actually looks like to start choosing your life on purpose. Instead of staying in that in between or falling back into what's familiar. So make sure you're following, subscribed wherever you're listening so you don't miss that. Until next time, remember, there is always power in the pause.